Welcome into hardcore Penn State football on a rainy afternoon in State College and also Scranton. Penn State set to embark on a $700 million renovation to Beaver Stadium. We've got all the details. We've got all the thoughts on what that's going to look like and our feelings on it. Jordan Hill returns to State College, and Penn State will have a large role, or at least a fun role, in the new college football video game. All that and more in this week's episode. Take one more bite of pizza here.
It's the important things here. Cory, best pizza place in State College.
Welcome into this. Whoa. Welcome into hardcore Penn State football. I'm Cory Lestochi. With me, as always, the great Shawn Kane. How are you doing today, Shawn?
Not too bad, Cory. Halfway through the week.
What'd you just ask me?
Well, yep. And best pizza place in State College.
Best pizza place in State College. Man, that's a tough one.
I always thought pizza was a little lacking in State College, to be honest.
So I think Highway Pizza is good pizza. I worked there for a while. I think their pizza is actually really good. A little expensive.
I liked Highway Pizza.
But I think their pizza is really good. I wouldn't get it every time, right? But it's good pizza. Fascia Luna, good pizza. Don't necessarily know if I'd go out of my way to go get them all the time unless I'm on that side of town. I think Otto's has really good pizza. Just throwing them out there.
I've actually never been to Otto's.
That's actually kind of crazy. But yeah, no, Otto's has good pizza too. Shawn, you asked me how I'm doing. Putting cabinet doors back on to the cabinets. Not fun. Not having a blast with that. Can think of 100 other things that would be more fun than that. So that's been my past couple of days, Shawn. How about you?
Yeah, that sounds terrible. Yeah, not a whole lot with me. Had a nice long weekend. Got out early on Friday and then was off on Monday. So yeah, it's been watching a lot of basketball. I don't know if you've been watching the playoffs at all, but Cory has not been watching the playoffs. But that's been.
I haven't
NBA
watched
playoffs have been pretty good this year, especially out west.
I haven't watched a single minute of the NBA playoffs, and I don't feel like I've missed anything.
Been pretty good. Unfortunately, the East, the Celtics, who I hate more than almost any team in sports, basically skated right to the finals. But the West has been very entertaining. Even though I think things will wrap up within the next couple of days out west. So, yeah. It's when the NBA season ends, I will say this, it seems like then we're not too far away from NFL minicamp. And then the next month is NFL training camp, and then college football's summer camp is here. So that when the finals end, it's like everything else starts with football. So it's a good way to segue right into our football show.
Yeah, let's talk football. I don't know if I have any. Well, let's start with an easy little thing. Former Penn State defensive tackle Jordan Hill returning to Penn State. We had heard rumblings and grumblings of this, but weren't allowed to say anything until it was official. I think one of our bosses may have said something like this was in the works for quite a couple, maybe since Blue and White. But officially will be the director of life skills for the football team. I don't exactly know what that means, but he's back in the building.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of ways to interpret what life skills would mean. If you think about it, though, in college football today, really in college in general, I don't think they school prepares you much for balancing a checkbook and things like that. I'm not sure if that's what it has to deal with,
I don't
but
think it's like wood shop, do you?
I don't think so. I think that would just be Jordan Hill Woodshop Extraordinaire would be his title. But maybe it's teaching them how to navigate through the waters of NIL, which is something that's brand new, relatively. Sounds like the NIL model is about to change, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit, because we will have revenue sharing. So not entirely sure how that's going to affect NIL. I don't think it's really been ironed out yet, but it's still going to be there. There's still going to be endorsements. That stuff's not going away. But I think from reading the things that I have, I think it's more so things will just be out in the open, and there'll be, at least in theory, a little bit more parity, in and a little more parameters, which I think everybody in college football and any fans of college football have recognized. We need rules, we need parameters. So in my mind, big first step was taken with the revenue sharing settlement with the NCAA.
Yeah, $2.8 billion in back damages to former athletes, which also obviously opens the door to revenue sharing for athletes in the future. That was the Steve Berman trial. And a lot of that, I mean, you just Google stuff like that. I mean, a lot of it's just basically right now SEC teams like, what does this mean for revenue sharing? But this is going to affect everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think now it's also going to open the door to collective bargaining, and I'm very interested to see what they do with that, and to see how they get around the Title IX concerns. I actually heard somebody who we like to criticize here and kind of bust his chops a little bit, Joel Klatt. He actually had a pretty good segment about it, like about how they have to figure out a way to separate the revenue, the sports that bring in revenue and the sports that don't. And little thing that's really kind of unknown, I think, to a lot of just casual college sports fans, there aren't many sports that make money. Football's
Right.
one, men's basketball is one, and then after that, kind of depends on the school.
Penn State wrestling.
Wrestling, some years. Women's basketball depends on the school. Iowa for sure. I don't know about Penn State.
Yeah, I don't think Penn State
because they have a tournament too. So they do make money from that. But really the only two that almost at every sport that make money, every school that make money, are football and basketball. So they're gonna have to try to figure out a way to separate the revenue share, the revenue drivers from the non-revenue drivers, and how that's gonna work with Title IX. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, I mean, they were talking about it. So the athletic department will be able to share 22% of their income, basically, of the revenue.
Okay.
So there's 22% that they're willing or are able to give away. And this Yahoo Sports article that I read about it basically was like, they're not really confident that Title IX necessarily plays a role in it, because it's not like other things where that money is there for the athletes. Technically, the money would be generated by the athletes and therefore wouldn't have to be shared equally because it's not being generated equally. But what they get into in this article is about, just because you're playing the technically game doesn't mean you're not going to get sued. And is that worth the risk of going down that road? But the Department of Education hasn't had a comment on this yet. So without them saying yes or no to that, all these schools are basically just in limbo about what's going to happen. But that's the kind of that side of the Title IX aspect of it. I guess what I'm expecting is for Title IX not to play a role in this, and I'm expecting I mean, all cards are off the table. I mean, anything could happen at this point, right? I mean, you could be potentially straight up bidding on players very, very soon out of high school for recruiting purposes, for contract purposes. I mean, there's almost
Yeah, but
no
that's already
limit.
happening now.
Yes, yes. But for some schools like Penn State, you could argue it almost helps them get back into the game.
For sure. Because now they're with the the thing with that, one of the big problems with NIL is there's so much going on behind the scenes because there's no real regulation. Now with revenue sharing, in all likelihood, there's going to be some sort of players union. I don't know how that's going to work, but with players unions, with revenue sharing, that means you're going to have collective bargaining. And there are rules to collective bargaining. So we're going to have some rules and parameters that schools are going to have to abide by.
But here's my thing about it, Sean. I'm gonna cut you off. Let's say you put these rules and parameters in place. For example, you put a cap on something. It's not like
Yes.
NIL collectives are going away. So, yes, you as a school may only be able to pay somebody $20 million a year for your quarterback, but the collective, the third party collective, can still throw in an extra bonus 5 million if they have to, right? So it is a little bit better. It's almost like the MLB salary cap. Like, yeah, there technically is one, but you don't have to follow it.
Well, I'm interested to see what the future of the collectives are going to be because I hear what you're saying, but it's always going to be, even if you take the collectives away, let's imagine a world where they don't exist. It's going to be more valuable for your brand to be the quarterback at USC than to be the quarterback at Northwestern. You're going to have more opportunities, just like it's more valuable to be the quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys than the Arizona Cardinals. Just more money there. There's more. If you're the quarterback for America's team, yeah, you're going to make more. You're going to have more business opportunities. And I think that should be the model college football's going for, because that's something you could deal with. The Cowboys haven't won a Super Bowl in 30 years. So even though you can make a ton of money playing there, you can make a ton of money playing for the Yankees. The Yankees haven't won a World Series in 15 years. But the Kansas City Royals have won a World Series since the Yankees have. So it's not the be-all, end-all like it. I'm not saying it totally is now in college football, but it's certainly trending in that direction. So I think if they do it the way that I would like to see it done, that would be that would be a model that could work.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The other part of this too is if Title IX does play a role in this moving forward, the collective would be able to circumvent that. So I guess for those two reasons, and I'm not a huge NIL collective fan as far as how this has been rolled out. Speaking of that, Retain the Roar still going on. They're almost close to 400 donors over there, racking in the money. But the way they went about this, and especially Penn State, where it took them a while to consolidate, and it was like a battle of collectives. Wasn't the biggest fan of how that all went down, but I do think they still play a role. And if Title IX becomes an issue, they would still be able to find a way to funnel that money through the collective and not have to worry about something like Title IX. So be very interested to see the future of the collective, because you're right, it's going to absolutely change. Players can start getting paid in 2025, 2025. Also, it's going to be very interesting to see how does Penn State manage that cap. Okay, 22% is what you get. If that's what, is it a percentage? I mean, they're saying they have a percentage of what they can pay all of athletics and all the members of the athletic department, as far as the student athletes go. But that 22%, how much of that goes to football? And then of specifically the allocation for football, how do you begin to figure out that spending? I mean, you almost need a true general manager at this point, Sean, to figure this out. I mean, this is new territory. I, I I'm assuming that most college programs are not equipped right now to handle that. Yes, they were able to find money for NIL here and there. It's completely different level of magnitude that we're about to adventure on.
Yeah, and we've been told before that there are going to be problems with collective bargaining, and there are going to be some things, some UFOs, some unforeseen occurrences. When it comes to collective bargaining, it's not going to be a totally clean process. I do think it's going to be better than what we have now. But yeah, there are going to definitely be some bumps in the road and some adjusting, which Penn State historically has been a little slow on adjusting to new things that crop up in college football. But yeah, I think you're going to start seeing a general manager role because there's a lot more to think about. Allocating money and scouting, looking at different schools because the transfer portal is not going away. I do hope, if if there's some kind of collective bargaining agreement, maybe portal fixes could be part of that. But yeah, I think just to handle all of this stuff, you're going to need somebody. And really, Cory, I mean, you can make an argument. We could really use a general manager right now before any of this happens because so much of the head coach, any head coach at any college football program right now, they're not really coaching. Like they're not really doing the nuts and bolts, like going out there developing guys and coming up with game plans. Sure, that's part of what they do, but it's like it's becoming a smaller and smaller part of what they do. So I think a general manager could be. I think it is the future of college football, and I think it's going to be a more immediate future than you think. Like I think you could see something where one team gets one, another team gets one, and then we all have them.
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to African Mangoes, saying he donated to Retain the Roar. He's doing his part. Thank you, African Mangoes. Don't know if the mangoes in Africa are the best mangoes. I really don't know anything about African mangoes. Curious what your guys' thoughts are on paying the players at this point. My opinion, moving to this model is better. That 22% cap is going to be for everybody, regardless of what their revenue is, Sean. So,
Yeah,
in Ohio State is going to, like, I think they did the example on Yahoo Sports, was like Ohio State, gets roughly, $22 million ish, $30 million ish. Well, to like in Arkansas, the world, that's a larger percentage of their budget. So they're not gonna have as much to spend. So it's not a perfect fit, but it gets people relatively close to the same playing field, relatively.
And so is it 22% for the whole school?
For the entire athletic department, yes.
Yeah, and keep in mind, Penn State, we have a lot more programs than a lot of other schools do.
Here's what I would like to see happen:
close to 30 or over 30. So
I would like to see them
a lot of money
go to a percentage cap per sport, or at least for the big dogs, right? Maybe you do a 15% cap for just football. And yeah, you can put all 15 towards it. You can only put 10 towards it, and you can use the other 12% elsewhere. Whatever you want to do. But at least that prevents exactly the problem that you're bringing up. Hey, let's just cut all of our sports and we put all 22% to football because that's what's generating the money anyway. How do you keep all those other, especially the Olympic sports, around when they're not generating money? And then you have to go to the football team who is generating money, say, yeah, we can't give you more because we got to pay for the javelin team. And they're, so that's a tough conversation to have.
Yeah. And there are a lot of people at Penn State that understandably have a big attachment to the Olympic sports. I mean, personally, I don't follow a lot of the Olympic sports. Would I want to see them cut? I mean, I'm not going to be cheerleading for it, but you gotta, like you said, difficult decisions.
Breaking news: Shawn hates the Olympics.
I mean, I've never went to a fencing match. It just, to me, and look, if we have fencers in the audience, thank you for being here, but I'm just not that into them. I'm not calling for them to be cut, but the day might come. I mean, we got to be honest about where we're going here in college athletics right now.
I want to correct my statement earlier. So the example that was given, Ohio State brings in $250 million in revenue, $100 million more than 20th in the nation, Arkansas, at $150 million. So $20 million price tag for Ohio State is only 8% of their budget. $20 million price tag for Arkansas is 13% of their budget. So just from that alone, you're starting to see if a team in a department only has 22% of their revenue to play with, even though Arkansas is the 20th in the nation in revenue, they're dramatically behind Ohio State in the realm of revenue sharing. So it's just something to keep in mind as this begins to play out, as we begin to pay the players in the fall.
Yeah, you gotta. And again, it's like pro sports. There are a lot of teams that have a lot of money and spend a lot of money that don't win anything. Take it from a Yankee fan, the last 15 years. Haven't been back to the World Series. Certainly haven't won a World Series.
Shawn, I got to go back for a second. Are you a Sixers fan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the map.
Yeah, I'm not going to say nothing.
Sixers, Yankees, Dolphins.
Flyers. Yeah, you're a mess. At least you got the Flyers and the Sixers going the right way. All right, let's I mean, we can talk about that literally all day. Maybe we try to work to get somebody on the show to discuss that a little bit more. Before we get into the renovation, because I think that's going to lead to the rest of the conversation today, let's just talk a little bit about EA Sports College Football game. And that's going to be coming out in July. Some more details are starting to come out about the game now. Just a couple things I wanted to mention. Looks like Zombie Nation has made the cut. Looks like the We Are Chance has made the cut. The Whiteout has made the cut. And the gate at which the Nittany Lions opens as appears to be on there, as well as the band drum major doing his flip on the field. So a lot of traditions that Penn State fans hold dear appear to be in the game. I will just give a shout out to the Blue Band, because I know some of former Blue Band members that listen to this podcast were pretty upset that they didn't get the uniform correct for the Blue Band. I'm assuming that it's a pretty generic band. Like all the bands have the same, outfits with just different colors for primary and secondary. Given the fact that I've modded the video game, at least the older video games before, and I could actually change the color myself. I'm guessing that they're all pretty much set up the same. However, that's probably not gonna satisfy those people out there. But I hear you. But you're probably not going to see any change to that. So those are some of the updates I've seen. Hate that a Michigan guy is going to be on the cover. Shawn, do you have any thoughts about the video game? Did you play the video game very much?
I did back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day is the only time we had it. So, yeah, right now I don't have a PlayStation 5. So I may invest in one to almost strictly to play that. Because as I got older, honestly, I just started playing football video games. Like I'd just be alternating between Madden and NCAA. And then when I moved out of my parents' house a few years back, I left my PlayStation behind because my brothers were still at home. So I didn't want to take it from them. But I haven't had I haven't had like a PS5 since. So, well, a PlayStation since. So, yeah, I may be investing in one because the game does look really cool. I like that Herb Street and Fowler are like all the big games. I think that's a cool feature because I always thought like when I'd be playing, I'd be like, oh, College Game Days here to see me play Akron. Very realistic.
Right. Yeah, I'm in the same boat as far as having to upgrade consoles. So
yeah,
which as far as build or buying a house and having a wedding
yeah,
is not, believe it or not, is not high on the priority list for the fiance as far as pecking order of what I should be spending my money on. A new console and video game is pretty low on that list. So
yeah. I got a wedding coming up next year, so it's kind of in the same boat.
I was told to go out and start a lemonade stand if I wanted to purchase the video game. So
I like it.
maybe I'll start a collective.
Yeah, the hardcore Penn State football PS5 video game or PS5
GoFundMe?
console GoFundMe page.
African
Cowboy
Mangoes,
Ribeye
we're
would
going to
donate.
need you to take back your donation to retain the war and retain the roar and give it to us.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Mr.
Yeah, it'd be a cool
Mr.
game.
Cowboy Ribeye, come on, work it over.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, that's about all I want to talk. Let's we buried the lead enough. Let's talk about the big enchilada, the elephant in the room. Penn State set to start renovation on Beaver Stadium. Thought I would never say those words. Thought it was just going to be a pipe dream that never happened. I remember back in whatever it was, 2015, when they did the original renovation drawings and they got us all excited and then nothing happened. But here we are. Things are actually going to happen. The Board of Trustees passed the funding for it. It's going to cost no more than $700 million to renovate the west side of the stadium and a bunch of other aspects that we're about to get into. But can I just say, finally, I remember, Shawn, last year we had an episode about renovating versus rebuilding, et cetera, et cetera. But can I just say thank you. Beaver Stadium was really old and it really needed this. So I'm glad it's finally happening.
Yeah. The I mean, it's so old that there were legit concerns about the whole structure of the stadium, not aesthetically, just like, oh, I hope that stays up. I hope it doesn't collapse. So, like you said, $700 million. $700 million. A large portion of that, almost half, is just for structural changes. So just keeping the stadium up. So it's all stuff that we had to do anyway, no matter what. And then a bigger part or part of that is, like you said, the large part is renovating the west side of the stadium. There are going to be a lot more luxury suites. They're going to actually have the suites, close to field level, as opposed to anywhere else in the stadium, which I think, will be cool for those folks that could afford it. And
that was a funny low-key way to throw that little bit of shade in there.
I mean, it's Beaver Stadium, it's Penn State, so the rich go first. They are knocking down the broadcast booth, which is way overdue from what I understand. A lot
Press
of times
Box has not had any investment since 1960.
There you go. And it looks it. And from everybody that I hear talk about it, it's the worst in the Big Ten. It's not close. So that was definitely needed. So I am happy that they're getting rid of that. I've heard reports that some nights they don't even have hot water up there. So definitely needed. Heck, we don't even have hot water in a lot of the bathrooms with the pee troughs, which supposedly are going to go to. They're putting in a lot more bathrooms. I think nearly doubling the number of bathrooms we have now, which is good. Don't know if the pee troughs are here to stay or not. I don't think they really got into that. I'm surprised. That'd be like my first question to Packcraft. What are we going to be?
What are we going to be pissing in?
Are we going to continue to cross swords here, or I don't know what the plan is there.
Let's just back up a second because I want to get some of these facts out before we lose people or anything like that.
Go ahead.
Because I don't think a lot of people went through the PowerPoint, which I don't blame them. As the white shirt says, PowerPoint is boring. But there's a lot of good stuff in the PowerPoint itself. Sean, I'll send it to you if you haven't read it yourself. I don't know if you went through it or not.
I read through it, but it's been almost 2 weeks, so.
Yeah, I mean, so they talk about all three options, right? So you can either repair the stadium, you can renovate the stadium, or you can replace the stadium. And I thought it was interesting that some of the Board of Trustee members were speaking about how, we can't afford this. It's like, did you not read the PowerPoint? Did you not see the research done? Just to give people at home an idea, repairing the stadium would cost $140 million. But long term, over 30 years, would come out to a $655 million deficit for those necessary repairs. As far as opportunity to make more profit, et cetera, on the other options. Replacing would cost $2 billion plus and would put Penn State in a $1.3 billion deficit in 30 years. Now, there are some cool aspects of it, but also one of the ones that we can talk about that in a second. But then renovating is what they chose to go ahead with. $700 million costs. And they would see a $44 million profit in 30 years. So, yes, there's going to be some upfront costs. But over the course of time, some of the things that Sean's already talked about, some of the things we're going to talk about, they begin to see some of those benefits. So I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people are like, well, fiscally, this doesn't make any sense. Well, I mean, look, I didn't do the research, but at least from what they showed us, it looks like fiscally, this is actually the more responsible option. And so I wanted to get that out there.
Yeah, it needed to be done, right? We're always talking about the stadium. And look, we love Beaver Stadium. I think every Penn State fan has it's a special place for them. But yeah, this is the most obvious thing ever that they needed to do this. And, you could talk about the funding and about how you do it. And I'm not an economist, so I don't do my own research into vaccines, and I don't do my own research into the costs of renovations, but I'm going to take people who have done research into these things. I'm going to take their word for it and kind of go from there. But yeah, these are all things that needed to be done. And we'll get into, I already got into some of them, the nuts and bolts as to what's going to happen. But it's sort of too, Cory, because when I first saw it, and I saw that the emphasis was going to be on the west side of the stadium, part of me also went, what about the rest of the stadium, as far as the seats go? Because it doesn't seem like a whole lot with the seating is going to change all that much, except on the west side at this point.
Yeah, well, let me just talk about some of what we're expecting here. The last thing I'll say about the rebuild too was you're talking seating. A complete rebuild was going to mean less capacity. It was going to mean losing the iconic aspect of Beaver Stadium. They were not going to be able to rebuild and keep that thing at $100,000. So you kind of live with what you want in that aspect of it. And I think that's an identity to Penn State that they didn't want to lose. And so, yeah, I mean, the seating was going to be limited. You see what Northwestern's done. You see what Hawaii's NFL stadiums, et cetera. The one point, though, I'm curious why a rebuild would be less environmentally friendly. Did you have any idea why that would be the case?
You would think with the new stadium they would do things with modern regulation that we just
Maybe
didn't
it's
have
just
in the
like an energy. Maybe it's just an energy thing. Maybe they use more energy from
maybe.
a.
And odds
I
are
don't
we'd
know.
have to tear down the beef and put all that asbestos and whatever is used to build the beef into the air. So that, I don't know, probably not the most environmentally friendly thing.
All right, let me just go through some of these things. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the slides, like it does not say anything about, hey, we're gonna get rid of the bleachers or anything like that, at least at this point.
But that could come.
15%, right? 15% increase in restrooms, 24 more elevators, 24 more escalators, 4+ stair towers to all help with circulation, 102 more points of sale for concessions. Hopefully that really helps with getting food on a decent time and obviously more options. For seats, all it says is increase of suites, in addition of those lodge boxes, and then press box capacity will have a broadcast level. So they're doing a lot of good stuff, but as far as like the bleachers itself, not so much. And
Yeah.
31 sports, by the way, Sean, when you were talking earlier. Penn
31.
State has 31 sports.
Yeah. So, I mean, and honestly, I know, like, I half jokingly, but half serious say, oh, yeah, Rich always come first at the beef. But caveat to that, if they could generate more revenue by having, the bourgeoisie buy more in these luxury boxes. I do think that the field level suites they're gonna look cool. There's gonna be cool angles there. If they could generate more revenue, yeah, that's gonna lead to possibly renovating the rest of the stadium seats, because that was the one thing I was disappointed in. The rest of it all sounds groovy, like you brought up. Um, the circulation of people. Like I remember, like when we were walking down from two of the longest walks of my life. We're walking down from the upper end of the north end zone after the 2018 Ohio State game, and then walking down from the 2021 Illinois game from the south end zone. And it's just a throng of people. We're packed in like sardines, and it's a slow walk, slow walk. And then it's, for the concert, again, we were up in the south end zone. You had to
Concert
watch
was real bad.
the concert was very bad, and there was a lot more drinking at the concert inside the stadium. So of course there was vomit on the ground. So then the
Yummy.
whole crowd has to go and avoid the vomit. Like it's just things like that is gonna be just cut out now because of the stairs. I'm actually surprised the escalators were included, because when I look at Beaver Stadium, I'm like, how could they put more escalators in this place? But apparently they found a way, which again, I'm very impressed by that. I'm very happy about. Um, so there are a lot of good things. Like that's one of the better things. Maybe for the common fan, that's probably going to be the best part of this, as well as more bathroom access. But I think just getting in and getting out of the stadium faster is going to
Oh
be a
yeah, the
big plus.
circulation's huge. Yeah,
Yeah.
circulation's huge. I was a little disappointed when it said maintain current tailgating and parking situation. I mean, I
Well, they're
assume
not
they
going to
honestly.
improve it.
I assume they meant like they're not going to get rid of tailgating lots is what they meant by that.
Yeah.
But like they could try to improve circulation out there too while they're at it. I'll be interested what they do because like so their whole like front door experience through the new welcome center.
Yeah.
Like, is that going to be on the west side? I assume it's going to be. I don't know where that's going to be.
I don't know either. I don't think they really. It looks like from the pictures. Now these are just pictures. Who knows what it means? It looks like it was set up on the west side, and it would make
Yeah,
sense too because they're renovating the seating and everything. So you would assume that they would
but
just renovate on
where
that
would
side.
people be? Why would be people be walking on that side? You know what I mean? Like, why would the welcome center be over there? That's the side towards Park, right?
Yeah, I mean a lot of people park in lot 12 though, and lot
Right,
11.
but I guess I'm just saying all of your foot traffic is coming down Curtin.
Right,
So
right.
I'm
I
just
got you.
curious how that's going to the natural place would be for that to be more on the east side, I guess. That's where the museum is. That's where, the bricks and stuff are. That's where the players enter. But maybe maybe that's part of the circulation. They want to share the wealth across the entire stadium. But I'm guessing they're going to have to cut back some of the tailgating and that in those areas to make room for all of this over there.
In all likelihood, yes. I am interested to see how they do that. They do have. Oh God, on the west side, there really isn't a ton of room between like the paved lot.
No.
And there really isn't, not there. The north side, you might be able to take up some grass. But still, you would still be eliminating some of the tailgating spots. So yeah, they do kind of run close into each other. Whereas south side,
that's what I was originally thinking, was like the south side. Make sure I'm getting my bearings correct.
Yeah, because the south side, that's where the players walk. That's where the players walk in. Where there's not. I mean, people all walk towards there, but you wouldn't be taking up any tailgating spots. Same thing with the east side of the stadium.
I gotta look at this on a map because it doesn't. Because to me, when I think about this, like the natural area is over by Gate B, right? Like you could do it there too.
Yeah.
Where you just all those RV people are parking, you could make that area really nice right there if you really wanted to. But again, I don't really know. I just don't feel like there's a bunch of room on that side, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here.
Yeah, I mean, like the actual stadium itself, it is just so huge. So it just takes up so many spots. So much space, I should say. So yeah. I don't think they really specified. Did they take pictures at this Did they take questions at this press conference?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
So that would be the south. Yeah, okay. So I guess that makes sense. There is, now that I'm looking at it again, I was kind of getting my west and north a little mixed up. So that west area is going to make sense. That is where Gate B really is. So that's close enough to the sports museum where that's going to make sense. And and it's not too far away from the foot traffic on Curtin. So I think that's going to be fine. What's also interesting is those grass lots, which is like lot 18 over there, where you have those like levels of RV, and then you have what used to be the green cars. Those people are being moved because of the Jeffrey Field renovations for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So they're actually not there. They're over closer to the IM field now. But I'm wondering, do they ever get their spots back?
Well, that's a good question.
Because then you build this whole thing. Maybe you move the RV people back, and then you have this welcome center in front of them. I don't know. I'm very curious how that all plays out.
And like construction's starting on this very, very soon. Like they're gonna kind of hit the ground running on this because construction is gonna be finished by 2027. So I think the west side that starts to be affected, like the bleachers, I think that starts to be affected as soon as this year or next year.
Next year.
25. Yeah.
Yeah, next year. Which I don't think they're allowing anyone. When I was doing my season ticket, it didn't look like they were letting new people pick seats over there for season tickets. So if you had them, I don't think they kicked you out yet. But I don't think you could get new season tickets on that side. But maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, I wanted to bring that up. I did find my answer on the environmental side of things. They want to replace the LEED certification, which I'm assuming is something to do with energy power. Prioritize energy efficiency through enhanced building commissioning. Reduce indoor water use through fixture selection. Divert 75% of non-hazardous construction waste from landfill through reuse and recycling. And support the reduction of landfill waste from event operations by improving the infrastructure. So there you go.
There you go. We're getting green here.
The last thing I want to say, I mean, there's going to be, and I think this is maybe a good segue because we knew this was going to probably come up, the opportunity for non-football activities and large-scale events. So, like Luke Combs just happened. I don't want to talk about Winter Classic yet, Sean, because we actually have a fan question on that. But what they're thinking is right now, $268 million in annual economic impact in Center County, supporting 2,600 jobs and $87 million in employee earnings, averaging $16 million per home football game. Even throws weddings out there, so they could have some big time weddings there, Sean. But besides Winter Classic, what else are you thinking as far as trying to get a non-football events in the Beav moving forward?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think we saw with the Luke Combs show. First off, people will go. I think there were some people that may have been thinking, well, are people really going to drive all the way out to central Pennsylvania in the middle of April and fill up the big stadium? The answer is yes. Just bring the artist. You know, it probably has to be a big time artist to do it, to be honest. But yeah, there are definitely got people out there that will do that. And they'll be able to point to Luke Combs and say, hey, this was pre-renovation. People are going to go to your show if you go to State College. So yeah, I'm all for that. Yeah, we're going to get into Winter Classic. But yeah, I think that's just it's really good for State College, more so than even Penn State itself. It's going to be really good for the town to get more stuff going on in there. So yeah, all for it.
Here's the timeline, by the way. So commissioned May 2024, construction guaranteed October 2024. It's the design phase, some maintenance projects, stadium improvements, and then state maintenance project, stadium improvements starts more on 2025 with the west side demolition and rebuild phase right after the season or in January. Temporary conditions for season 1. 2026 West Side Demolition Rebuild Phase 2 after the season, with more temporary conditions for Season 2. So I really the 2026 season, Sean, might have the lowest amount of attendance, is what it sounds like. Maybe they'll be able to put some of the other stuff back, but I'm not really sure exactly how that's going to work. And then 2027, right after the 2026 season, they'll begin West Side Demolition Rebuild Phase 3, and the project should be complete before the start of the 2027 football season. So that's kind of the timeline there, Sean. Again, the fact that they're in stages like that or phases makes me wonder, or at least hope, that they would be able to provide some attendance on the West Side during each one of these phases, but who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they'll find a way to do it. You could, I believe, you could look at what Texas A&M did, because they had a huge rebuild, or not rebuild, renovation back after Johnny Football was done playing there, and I don't remember attendance dipping a whole lot. So I think they could do things like maybe bring in bleachers that are temporary for the games. So I think they could get a little creative with that. But I don't think they've really released any details as to how they're going to do that. But yeah, like we said, it's something we needed. How exact, like, are they going to be looking to the government for funding or anything like that, I wonder?
No.
That's good.
I can go back to that. Said here, funding. So
yeah, because I think those who voted no and those who voted present, I think part of the part of their concerns was about funding.
But they're not going to apply for anything. It says here 80 million from founder suite donations, 4.3 million from one-time capital donations. Oh, I see. Never mind. I see. They're trying to raise for renovations. Let me take all that back. They're trying to raise 134 million for renovations via just donations. The rest of it's just coming straight out of the athletic department.
Gotcha.
I thought there was another thing about it. If you're willing to donate $50 million, you will have naming opportunities. If you're willing to donate, Sean, $80 million, you will have founder suite donations, whatever the hell that means.
All right. Well, let's be founders, Cory.
Yeah, we'll get right on that. I thought there was something about specifically like how they're willing or going to pay for this.
Yeah, and I know obviously it's gonna be a lot of financing, but and paying it over time. But I'm just thinking they're probably gonna look for a variety of places.
Let me see if I can find anything else.
And this is
here.
just when we start talking about NIL, and one of the reasons that the big fish could be hard to come by, they're going to say, well, you also want me to donate to your stadium, which is true. And then the question becomes, well, what's more important for your football team? And the answer is yes, both. We need both. So we need a more state-of-the-art stadium, but on field, we do need more NIL funding. Because I don't know if you've heard or not, we are a little behind. So again, if you haven't donated yet, definitely looking to restore the roar. But yeah, I think it wouldn't shock me if they even look to the government for a grant or two, which I don't really love. I don't really love the taxpayers funding football stadiums, but I just know how a lot of these things get built, and that's a good way to do it.
So last year, Penn State had $202.2 million in revenue, but $202.07 million in expenses. So they're bringing in a lot of money, but man, they're also dealing out a lot of cash.
Not much of a profit there.
No. So before we get to the fan questions, African Mangoes, by the way, says, I'm not even a Luke Combs fan. I just want to go to see a concert in Beaver Stadium. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm not a Luke Combs fan either, and I went, and it was an awesome time.
I wanted to mention one other thing about EA College Football. I guess when they showed some of the reporters, like the atmosphere side of things, they recreated the Mo Bamba moment in Beaver Stadium with Michigan before the snap.
Oh, really? That's dope.
So, anyway, there's that. Anything else, Sean, before we get to the fan questions?
Yeah, official visits coming up. Do you want to mention that? Just quick. Quincy Porter's going to be on campus, along with Lex Cyrus. For all those that are really into receiving recruiting, as we all seem to be these days, those are two guys Penn State really wants to get here. Porter's probably going to be a tougher pull because he's very interested in Ohio State, Michigan, as well as Penn State. Oklahoma's in the mix too. And Lex Cyrus feels a little bit like Liam Andrews from last year, like a guy that Penn State really has to get to make this class what we want it to be. So a couple guys going to be there, among others. So Ty Jackson, he's another guy that Penn State really wants to have in this class at linebacker. So we will give you some intel hopefully next week on how those visits go.
Sounds good. All right. Let's move over to the fan questions. All righty. First fan question is from Matty Ice, longtime listener of the show. His thoughts on the renovations, overall good, slightly worried about how much seat prices will change, and I'm not sure if I'm a fan of all the white. Okay. His question, what SEC team would you want to do a home-and-home visit with? Let me say that again. What SEC team would you want to do a home-and-home with? I think everybody liked the Auburn series and would like to see something similar in the future. Sean?
You Bengals. I think Penn State LSU would be awesome to go to Death Valley and for them to come up to Happy Valley. Yeah, LSU's right at the top of my list of teams that I would like to see Penn State have a series with.
Wish that I was on a Rocky Top down in the Tennessee hills.
Yeah, that's another team.
Yeah, I would love, never been to Neyland, would love to go there, and wouldn't mind being in Tennessee, given that I've been in some of the other places in the SEC, and, well, I'd rather be in Tennessee.
I just would love to make Clay Travis sad.
I kind of forgot about that guy. I feel like I haven't seen as much from that guy lately.
Oh, you're not missing much.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I have got out of his algorithm somehow.
Yeah, I'm somehow still in it.
He has me blocked, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, really? That's a good one.
Yep. All right. Next question here. From Mudbug. Are you concerned the stadium renovation will diminish whiteout atmosphere? My opinion is that it's necessary, and I'm optimistic it will be a huge improvement if they can stay on schedule. Construction always stays on schedule. What are you talking about, Mudbug?
Yeah, look at Sandy's renovation.
Will it diminish the atmosphere? I think it's going to improve the whiteout atmosphere in the sense that the lighting is really not that great in the Beav. You see what other schools do now with like the flashing lights, and they just like half of the student section doesn't really have that great of lighting to begin with, especially when you get to like the longer sections that go all the way up to the top. So I'm going to say it improves it. Maybe not for during the renovation time specifically, but come 2027, I think it'll be an improvement.
Yeah, it's a good point on the shadows, and it gets very, very dark at points in the stadium. You could really see it on TV too. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it will. I think a big thing with keeping the whiteout atmosphere is just keeping the stadium, because I've talked about this many, many times on here. When you take a stadium down, the atmosphere doesn't necessarily transfer into the new one. Look at, my fellow Yankee fans out there. Look at old Yankee Stadium compared to new Yankee Stadium. Nice stadium, not the same atmosphere. Just doesn't feel the same. So that's what I would have been concerned about. But but the stadium itself, albeit, there'll be more nice seats. It's really not going to change inside the actual stadium watching it. It's not going to change a whole lot, I don't think. So no, I'm not too worried about it. And I totally hear what you're saying about staying on schedule, because the only thing that I've ever seen in the state that was ahead of schedule was when they repaired I-99 down by Philly.
I didn't know that did stay on schedule.
Yeah, they had that built in like 2 weeks. It was impressive.
You know what's definitely not on schedule is North Atherton construction.
But that's been in construction since I was in school, so.
Yeah. Final question here from a one-armed Dan. Just talking about it, but I have a question that kind of follows up with it. He says a medium-sized win was going to knock over Beaver Stadium, so I'm glad they're finally getting with the times. That plus being able to host a playoff and eventually a Winter Classic make it a good decision. Sean, what are your thoughts on Penn State hosting Winter Classic hockey in Beaver Stadium?
Yeah, all for it. the one thing that was always working against Penn State, the Beaver Stadium in particular with the Winter Classic, was the stadium wasn't winterized. And that's something that quietly got done this offseason. So because they had to do it in case we had a playoff game this coming season. So that's done. So that's going to take care of it for Winter Classics as well. So yeah, if you could host the Penguins and the Flyers, or Penguins and Rangers, I think Penguins and Flyers, I think you have to do it since it's right in the middle of the state. Yeah, we should definitely jump at that chance. And I think there's a better likelihood than that it's going to happen at some point.
I think so too. You think Flyers, Penguins?
I think so. I mean, I think that's the matchup that makes most sense. They're
Maybe
from
the
different parts of the state. What's up?
Maybe Buffalo gets in there?
Maybe Buffalo. Buffalo would make some sense with the Terry Pegula connection. Plus, if you play, them versus either the Flyers or the Penguins, it's a not quite equal amount of time. I think Buffalo is a little bit more of a drive, but it's not that far. So, yeah, I'm all for that.
Maybe even going to New York if you really had to. There's a lot of Penn State fans out there as well. But yeah, I mean, I think it would be almost silly not to do Pittsburgh, Philly. I think that would almost make too much sense.
Yep, 2.5 hours away from both. So
you can get the Philly in 2.5 hours.
Maybe not. Might take 3.
I'll say. I guess if you go fast enough. That's all I have, Sean.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think my job here is done.
Shout out to the Wi-Fi.
Really cooperated today.
Yeah, big time. Sean, any thoughts about Penn State football? Have you thought all about Penn State football real quick before we get out of here? Like the players or team themselves?
Yeah, I mean, now is kind of a slow time of year. I did notice this one thing. It doesn't have to do with the team specifically, but it seems like James Franklin has taken more of an assertive role in NIL fundraising. Like, he's actually put out a couple of videos himself, which I don't think he's ever done before for that. So just something interesting to chew on. I think he's begrudgingly embracing this a little bit more, because I think all coaches are a tad uncomfortable with it. So he's no exception in that. But yeah, I thought that's been interesting the past couple of weeks. But yeah, I mean, as far as on the field right now, it is a bit of a slow time with our Nittany Lions.
I mean, the state media, they've put out a lot of content as well to help facilitate that. So that's good to see too. Yeah, no, I don't have too much. I just I'll say this, shout out to Nate Bauer per usual, but I just think he had a good point. Like, we can talk about a lot of other stuff. At the end of the day, it's going to come down to Drew Aller and the receiving core. Like, they're going to have to do more. Otherwise, it's going to be hit or miss. And with that, we'll say goodbye.
Good way to end it. I'll see ya.
Yeah. All right. For Sean Kane, I'm Cory Lestochi. You've been listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. I haven't even asked Sean if this is okay, but I'm hoping maybe we can do Tuesday night next week.
Should be able to, yeah.
We'll see you Tuesday night.
All right. Good night.